I have a brand new DCU update for you guys this Saturday morning. This is interesting. So a lot of people got really angry at my last video talking about Jason Momoa's bizarre video about DC. And they said his favorite character is Lobo, and he's excited to see Lobo come to life and bring that character to life on the screen. Screw Aquaman. He's done playing Aquaman. Well, things got interesting after that video came out. Jason Momoa, and today, just so you know, today's video is going to be all about casting rumors, and I have quotes to show you directly from James Gunn himself, which makes this whole thing just weird, and we're going to talk about what it means for the future of the DCU, because James Gunn made one really interesting comment, and we're going to break it down here in a few minutes. But let's talk about what Jason Momoa did in a follow-up interview. There was a lot of backlash from that video. A lot of people were upset that he's turning his back on Aquaman and saying, what came before doesn't matter. Let's just move forward, forget everything, which honestly would doom Aquaman too. And I think they're saving grace on a few of this stuff. And what he did during this interview is he said, I am Aquaman. I'm always going to be Aquaman. Nobody is coming in to take that role. That's what he basically said in this interview. And he goes on to say, but I can actually play other characters. And he talked about how he could be ferocious, sweet, endearing, and he could play other roles. He didn't say another role, he said multiple roles. So there is a possibility he could stay on as Aquaman and also play Lobo. And I've said this in the past. I hope this is where they're going with it. Because I've said in the past that I would be okay with him playing both characters, because Lobo looks nothing like Aquaman. People are, if you know who he is, you're going to know. But with that makeup on, you would never know that that is Jason Momoa. And I do agree he would look amazing as Lobo. So, but Lobo is not a household name. They can't just jump into a Lobo movie, all right? They just can't do that. There's no way with them bleeding money that they can invest in a Lobo movie. And for him to be that excited seemed a little weird. And if it's his dream role, so be it. Maybe he would be that excited. But to me, it was turning his back on Aquaman. But his current comments suggest he's not turning his back on Aquaman, and neither is James Gunn. And this leads into the more interesting things that came out over the last couple of days. So right after I posted that video, somebody made a comment about, what's his name? Black Adam. The Rock. Dwayne Johnson talking about possibly coming, some comments about possibly coming back as Black Adam. For people who don't know, he recently met with James Gunn and Peter Safran to talk about his future role as that character in the DCU. So the door is not shut. And this leads to a lot of speculation on what they're going to do in the future, and I'll cover that here in a minute. So I'll cover the speculation here at the end, but I'm going to show you these interesting quotes by James Gunn. And this is just some pretty bizarre, weird stuff. And the more that he talks, the more confusing this gets and the more head-scratching it gets. Because I will tell you, to keep on, for one thing, to keep Momoa and get rid of Henry Cavill, they're 4 years apart. Momoa is older than Henry Cavill is. So he's saying he wants a younger Superman, which I think is weird. Now, there are rumors that there are going to be, well, I don't think these are rumors, it's a done deal. There are going to be more reshoots with The Flash coming up. And I guarantee you those reshoots are going to be to kind of mesh everything with the future of the DCU. I think you're going to be able to watch everything that's happened, and it's going to go right into the DCU that James Gunn is creating. I think it's going to be one continuous story, and his quote kind of backs up my theory on this. So let's take a look at a couple of these quotes. So people were angry with James Gunn wanting to bring over people from Guardians of the Galaxy. You can see here that somebody made the comment of, James Gunn, please do not encourage Guardians of the Galaxy cast to follow you to DCU. Find fresh actors that can craft brilliant characters and forge new memories for audiences instead of swimming in the same muddy pond. Here was James Gunn's direct response to this. We have hundreds of roles to cast. As I've always done, some will be brand new faces. Some will be actors I've worked with before. And some will be actors who I've never worked with. What matters most is the actor fits the role and they're easy to work with. He never said anything about being easy to work with in the past. He was about putting the right people in the right roles to do those characters justice. So this other quote is the more interesting one. He says, "We have decided to half reboot the DC universe, which means that we will continue all of your favorite stories where they left off. But we're recasting everyone." What? Look at that smile on his face. This is some bizarre, weird crap that's going on here. I really hope that we do get some kind of clarification on this in the next week or so, because the more he talks on social media, the more messed up this seems. Everyone was assuming this was going to be a complete reboot with stories, characters, everything. Now he's saying we're only rebooting and changing out the characters, but we're going to continue with the same stories, which brings up a heck of a lot of questions. Does that mean they're going to continue off of Zack Snyder's story and they're still going to have Darkseid come to Earth? Because I'll tell you what, if you continue Justice League without Henry Cavill, Gal Gadot, and all the characters, Ben Affleck as Batman, you are committing movie suicide, okay? That is some weird crap just to want to change out the characters to make them younger or whatnot, which kind of goes directly against what Jason Momoa said about staying on as Aquaman. So somebody's lying. Somebody's not telling the truth. Somebody's lying. We don't know where this is going to go just yet, but if I would be more happy with him putting the Zack Snyder cast kind of off in a different universe and him going into a new timeline. That I'm okay with. I'm not okay with them continuing with the same stories, but with different actors. What kind of this is just some weird, why would you do that? Nobody is familiar with other people in those roles. We're already familiar with those same actors. If you're going to continue with the same stories, keep the same actors, period. Because you go into something like Man of Steel 2 or a Man of Steel movie and you don't have Henry Cavill attached to that project, that's just going to create just massive chaos, and it's going to anger a crap ton of people all over the internet. Not just the internet, but just moviegoers in general. Like, to me, this seems like the typical Warner Brothers middle finger job, where they're saying, we're going to do whatever we want. Screw the fans. So what if you've grown up for the last 10 years with these characters? We don't care. We're just going to recast everyone. We're going to save money. We're going to get lower budgets, and we're just going to continue on with the stories that we already had. I don't want a cheaper version of what Zack Snyder started. I mean, what he did with Zack Snyder's Justice League was amazing. The imagery, everything. There were like super high production values. Nobody's going to be able to match that, period. And I'm not even talking about the story or whether you liked it or not. The visuals alone, the visual style, the look will not be replicated. They won't be able to make anything near that, which is going to make everything seem cheap in comparison. Also, we have David Ayer out there talking about he's still pushing for his cut to get released in hopes that James Gunn will do the right thing. People have been all over David Ayer online, bashing him, saying, no matter what you do, it's still going to be a director's cut and it's going to be the same movie. And, there's going to need to be reshoots and other stuff. And he came out and said, there's no reshoots involved. Mine is a fundamentally, completely different movie. I don't need to film anything additional. Might need some visual effects done, but he said all they have to do is decide to want to release it. So he's actually in better shape than Zack Snyder was with Zack Snyder's Justice League, because the special effects were not completed for that project. There's just some weird, this is getting really weird, and you have the head of DC coming out and making these comments. Either Jason Momoa is a liar, either James Gunn is a liar. I don't know. We need to see something more definitive. And the fact that they have hundreds of roles to cast sounds like they're going to be coming up with like this grand plan, which again, this is where I was leading with this. I do think they're going to lead to a crisis event, and we will end up seeing the original cast back at some point to finish this story out. Because Henry Cavill even made similar comments, and same with Gal Gadot, that maybe there's no room for them right now, but there is going to be down the line in the future with the story that they have coming. I'm okay with that as long as we get a final a final conclusion to the Zack Snyder story that he started with Darkseid. And here's the interesting thing about Darkseid. Darkseid does not, if you know anything about Darkseid, he is not in the multiverse. There is only one Darkseid that spans, the same Darkseid spans all the multiverses. So he is the one thing in the universe that cannot be, there are no other versions of Darkseid. Darkseid is Darkseid amongst the whole multiverse. And so this creates a problem. I do not know where they're going to go with this, but if he is really being honest, where they're just going to continue on with all the stories but cast new people, that is not a good move. Not a good move at all. What are your guys' thoughts on his comments, on these latest, just all the news that's coming out? This is some pretty crazy stuff. I am going to be here to cover it all. So as stuff comes out, I will be covering what people have said. I'll give my 2 cents. This is my channel. I've had some people get on my case saying you're being negative, all kinds of stuff. And trust me, I read all the comments. And there are people saying you're becoming toxic, and it's all about you and your opinion. You have to remember, at the end of the day, this is my channel. It's my review. I am always going to give my 2 cents, but I'm also covering things honestly and showing you guys quotes and things that people have said from their own mouths. So take what you will out of that. I appreciate all of the support. Please, if you haven't already, like the video, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and you will be notified when I have new videos go up.